Hello, Matthew, Conscious Recovery. I just finished doing a cluster of videos talking about addiction and trauma and all the different ways that trauma and addiction impact the body and brain. And now I want to talk about tools, things that we can do to mitigate the damage done by trauma and or addiction. I'm going to use those somewhat interchangeably because to me, the approach was the same. If your addiction is anything like mine, well, at first I thought I had an addiction problem, then I got sober, and then I thought that maybe addiction was like a byproduct or a symptom of a deeper problem. And at first I thought it was depression and anxiety. And then I realized as I started to heal from the depression and the anxiety that there was actually another layer beneath that, and the depression and anxiety were symptoms of a deeper problem, which for me was unresolved trauma. All right. Trauma was impacting everything about me, the way I interacted with others, the beliefs I had about myself, the beliefs I had about the world, my expectations, what I thought the world should be like, all of these things that were causing a lot of trouble in my life, all caused by trauma. So if we can understand how trauma affects us, we can start to talk about tools to fix it. All this knowledge, it's not enough. Knowledge alone is not enough. It has to be tied to some kind of action. So that's what we're doing now. All right. First way trauma affects you is a dysregulated nervous system. I've already done a fair bit of talking about that. I've done some breathing exercises that can either bring your regulation up or down as needed. And if you're talking about soothing breathing exercises or ways to calm down, YouTube or Instagram, they're full of them, all right? So you don't need me to tell you another one. Just go find some calm down techniques and use them, okay? Use them on the regular. Practice is key, all right? And you'll feel better. Find the one that you like the best and just make it into a discipline. The one I want to talk about today is more complicated. All right, we're going to talk about dysregulated emotions. Now, emotions are a physical experience. You physically experience your emotions. Take anger, for example, your heart rate goes up, your pupils dilate, blood's rushing everywhere, you get flushed, hyperventilating, okay? All of that you can feel in your body, but anger is also a mental game. You get angry about things that, you expect or don't expect, or things that you wish would have happened. And so we can learn how to calm our body when we feel anger with those soothing breathing exercises, but we can also change what we think about our anger. We don't have to let ourselves get angry about everything. I think one of the most important lessons I learned in my recovery is that my emotions coming out of addiction were not perfectly calibrated. All right, my emotions were not the true north guiding star that I needed. They were wrong, often. And so I had to learn to interrogate my emotions and ask a lot of questions and ask myself, do I have the right to feel this way? Do I have the right to expect this from other people? Right? So I had to challenge what I was feeling. Not everything you feel is true. And we kind of live in a world where everybody talks about validating your feelings. You have to validate what they're, not necessarily. Because what if your feeling is just dead wrong? You don't have the right to feel it. Emotions unchecked by intellect, I consider that to be the definition of unreasonable. All right, you're allowed to feel whatever you feel, but you should have some reasons to feel that way. All right, and if you have no reasons, you might just be unreasonable. So let's find out if we're being unreasonable. Let's talk about one emotion, very, very common. If you ever go to addiction treatment, you're going to hear this one talked about. It's anger. Now, most of the time you'll see people get up on their whiteboard, counselors or, peer support workers, whatever, and they're going to draw an iceberg, all right, in the water, an iceberg in the ocean. And the idea is that anger is the tip of the iceberg. That's the part of the iceberg that everybody sees because your reactions are so visible. They're so overt. But underneath the water, in the part we can't see, that might be a completely different emotion. It might be rejection or vulnerability. You feel embarrassed, you feel stupid, you feel inadequate. And then you present with anger because anger is sort of a safer emotion to display to others. It's protective, okay? It keeps others at bay, all right? I don't want to talk about that for anger. You're going to hear that elsewhere anyways. I consider anger to be a little different. I consider anger to be an emotion of preference. Think about it. If you've ever gotten angry, it's probably because things didn't go the way you preferred they would have gone, all right? Every time I've gotten mad, it's because there's a version of reality in front of me that's happening to me that I kind of wish wasn't happening. I wish it was another way. So if I run into traffic and I'm frustrated, well, that's because I wish there was a version of life that I was living that didn't have traffic. If somebody, insults me, I wish that didn't happen. I preferred if it didn't go that way. If somebody steals from me, I wish that wouldn't happen. I prefer that I lived a day where I didn't get stolen from. I challenge you to look at the last few times you've gotten angry and you ask me whether or not it's tied to some kind of preference. Because in AA, they have a term, and it's a very useful term. It's life on life's terms. All right. It's a way that they say you can't argue with reality, but that's exactly what anger is. And so anger is tied to your values and your boundaries with others. And so you have to examine your anger and ask yourself, do I have the right to be mad about this? Take the traffic example. Do I have the right to expect traffic-free days every single day of my life? No, of course not. So me getting angry about that, it's not really useful. All I'm doing is causing myself a lot of physiological stress on a daily basis. And so I've had to learn how to take my anger for driving, road rage, I guess, and tell myself, no, I'm not allowed to be mad about that. If I'm mad about that, I'm going to be mad, 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, every day for the rest of my life? That's a lot of stress that I don't need. So you have to interrogate each emotion, starting with anger today, and then we'll move on to loneliness and boredom and inadequacy and all these different emotions. We have to look at them and decide if what we're feeling is helpful for our recovery. And if it's not, we have to change the way we think about it. We have to adopt a new attitude, a new belief. So get yourself a pen and paper and start by writing down anger. Write down the last 5, 10 things that you got angry about. Write the thing that you get angry about the most, or the person that makes you angry the most. Okay? And then you can start diving into what causes that anger and what need is that anger trying to fill in you. What is it trying to do for you? And then you can start to decide whether or not your anger is reasonable. All right? Get to work. Thank you.